Hi there. This is Alex of Pacific Northwest Bible Journaling. So excited to be joining you here on the Creative Retreat YouTube channel looking at Promise Keepers by Jen Coram. This is the monthly faith art box kit, and I'm so excited to be diving in. I just loved the story that Jen told here in the first couple paragraphs about how when she had a bad day, her mom would often take her to get a Slurpee, a sugary sweet frozen drink from the local convenience store to ease her pain. And she talks about learning hard lessons later as a mom and reflecting on her own mom. So I actually decided to use this story Jen told, and I selected a scripture out of Acts chapter 17, verses 22 through about 29, and decided to use those scriptures that focused on God being near and then us being the offspring of God, because the story was about a mother-daughter relationship as well as God being near, which is the theme that he is a promise keeper and that he will draw near to us is one of his promises. So here I am. I had gotten some inspiration from this Slurpee story and decided that I wanted to do something with the idea of God being a promise keeper. I went online and I Googled some images that gave me an idea. So here I am kind of debating how to use the stickers to execute my idea. I knew I wanted to use a bow from the kit. I just love these little, one is fabric and one is leather. They're real quite stiff, so they're gonna stand out off the top of my page. And I knew I wanted to use one given that the kits are such bright colors, and I really wanted to remember this vivid entry that I was creating. So I stuck it here at the top of my page, and I'll come back to that later. I kind of wanted to use it as a starting point, sort of that inspiration for the black to be coupled with these bright colors. So here's the sneak peek. Decided to make a Slurpee, and I'm so excited. So I'm going to use the Promise Keepers and the rainbow as the Slurpee logo. Basically, instead of the 7-Eleven logo, I'm also going to use the crown, and it says only at 7-Eleven, but I'm going to say only at Maker, which the idea is like the brand is Maker, God our Maker. I knew also I wanted it to be the main focal point, so I printed it two sizes thinking depending on which Bible I chose, I'd have options. But I immediately knew I wanted to offset it to give myself as much journaling space as I could, and then that I wanted to sketch it just quickly into my Bible. You could have done this with pencil first, just my style to dive right in with black pen and to be married to my decision. So here I am just sketching it in place. And then I knew I wanted to keep this looking liquidy and like having some movement. So I kind of practiced that circular motion before I grabbed my creamy crayon. It's an Alex brand, very, very similar to Faber-Castell gelatos, and just kind of kept that motion and that movement going when I got the red down. And then I just grabbed a baby wipe, just any wetted cloth or baby wipe will do to spread the color. Again, really keeping that circle kind of motion to in hopes of keeping the movement and the liquidiness of a Slurpee. I did have that glitter that you'll see me come back to in a minute to add the shine of a Slurpee. And here I'm going to grab these clear stamps, acrylic stamps. And I love clear because you get to really play with where you can put them and still see through them. So here I'm playing with how can I get the rainbow and the crown with the idea of only at Maker plus the words Promise Keeper on the cup. So I finally get a plan going and I sort of know what I'm doing. So I move them off to the side here shortly and then I'll start stamping. I just needed to keep in mind that the rainbow at its widest needed to be about 2/3 the way down the cup in order to fit. So I prime all of my stamps because they've never been used just on some really clean, soft skin first. And then I just kiss my ink pad lightly to get the ink on there. That'll keep the details. And I kind of went 2/3 the way down and I just went for it. Clean those off with that baby wipe. And then I'm going to move next to getting that Promise Keepers logo. This was a little trickier because originally I had envisioned it being kind of under the rainbow, but I loved the stamps and the look of all of the logo being black. And so instead of using a sticker that said Promise Keeper, I also liked that on the stamps, the two fonts were different versus on the sticker, they were the same font. So I decided to just go for it with the stamps because I liked how they looked. I kind of got lucky that everything lined up like I wanted. Not underneath the rainbow, but in a way that looked kind of logo-esque. And so then I added the crown to kind of look like that 7-Eleven symbol. You saw me go back here, and I'll look again at the original picture because I wanted to give the impression of what it said, where it said only at 7-Eleven. So I ended up handwriting in only at so that it would fit here tightly, just to get it in that top right hand corner. And then the next step is to add clouds. And I tried one strategy here first. I'm really playing with, can I get a whole cloud on without infringing on the words? There are definitely ways you could have done this better. So I grabbed a blue ink pad, stamp it on, and I use a piece of scrap paper so that the overflow doesn't go onto my page. I immediately can tell I don't love that the lines of the rainbow are showing through the cloud. But I thought, maybe if I add the outline of a cloud using that second stamp provided in the kit, I would like it. And then I quickly realized I don't love it. I still am not loving that you can see the lines of the rainbow through it. So I start kind of grabbing supplies thinking, what can I do? What are my options here? And I decide, you know what? I can create a cloud on a different piece. I just use the back of the cardstock that the bookmarks came on, and I can glue it down. And so first I do the solid cloud with blue, and then I pull up the outline and do the black outline over the top. I immediately, as soon as I've done it, I'm pleased I did it. It is going to be a better choice for what I wanted. I also like that in the end, when you look at the image, the clouds kind of pop a little because they're an additional piece of paper. They're up a little. They're little bit of texture there. So I just cut them out using my Cutter Bee scissors. These precision scissors are the best for doing little details. The ink on the back of this cardstock was a little wet, so I needed to be really careful. Decided I only wanted half a cloud, and that was my original plan, was like the sticker to only use half a cloud. But then I quickly decided, oops, I like the other half turned on its side. And then I love how that kind of brings balance to the cup. So the thing I did also notice, and I caught myself, was, oh, I need to add color to the rainbow, because if I glue these down and don't add the color, I'm going to struggle to get the color where I want it. So I pause the gluing and go and fill in using Faber-Castell gelatos in a vibrant pink color, green, and then yellow. And I chose those three colors because that's what are on the rainbow in the kit. You really could pick any three colors you liked, but I knew then these colors would be reflected in the stickers that I was going to use later. Then I come back to glue down the clouds, one the original direction that I'd planned on, and then the other one kind of cockeyed upside down. And it does overflow slightly off the edge of the page, so I have to grab my scissors and just trim it carefully. Again, you see I smudge a tiny bit of blue. It was definitely still wet, so here I press it with my own sweatshirt and check it again on this paper. It's fine at this point, so I know it's dry. And next step, I knew I'm always cautious because frequently I will start journaling or writing or creating over the scripture. So I add the glitter in, knowing my next step's going to be to add some outline or something to the passage to make sure I don't infringe on the scripture that I wanted to emphasize. So this is just truly craft glitter I got at like the Dollar Tree for my kids. And since I knew I wanted it to look kind of wet and to look like a Slurpee, I decided to snag it from them. There's probably lots of different products you could use. I just happen to have this on hand. I go back and I double up the outline to make the cup stand out a little more boldly, mostly because of how vibrant the red is turning out. And then I go in and color in the crown with the bright yellow. I wanted to tie the yellow from the rainbow up to the logo, and I start that outline. I know that I'm going to want to add to the outline. I'm going to end up with other kinds of washi and goodies in there. So I was trying to decide what stickers I might use, and I realized I needed to pick out the words that were most important. So I went back with that yellow gelato and underlined, "He is not far from each one of us. For in him we live and move and have our being, as even some of our own poets have said, for we are also his offspring." Since we are God's offspring, then we shouldn't think that the divine nature is like gold or silver or stone, an image fashioned by human art and imagination. And then I later underlined a little bit at the bottom too, both emphasizing this title that I settled on, God is near. And you see me moving these stickers around. This is kind of my trademark thing. I have a harder time with this type of visualization. So I knew I wanted God centered above the Slurpee. So I ultimately moved it to the middle, and then, or the middle of the column, and then put near below it with the stickers. I wanted each letter to be a different color, and then I added on to it is, God is near. And so I knew that from reading that passage again was what I wanted the main title to be on my page. So here I'm adding a date stamp. I always seem to mess these up, so I add a little bit of extra darkness to some of the letters and numbers. And then I'm going to really take some time here and emphasize this passage using all the colors that are in my design. I want to bring the visual of the rainbow to the scripture passage. So I put in some pink. There was already some yellow and red. Red is not one of the colors in the kit, but because I was really wanting to do a traditional red Slurpee, I used a little bit of the creamy crayon along with some blue, yellow, pink, and green that were part of the logo to tie it all together. I did add a little more sparkle because I felt like once it dried, it needed some more. And then I'm going to add in the straw. And you'll see me add just this tiny bit of straw sticking out the top of the Slurpee. What you won't see is that little section at the bottom of the straw that is red. I actually went back in and added some white acrylic paint before taking my final shots of the page and before being done, because I wanted the straw to look like it was sitting on top and actually in the smoothie or the Slurpee. Here I am ready to journal, so I will read you what I ended up writing and my prayer to the Lord. It says, Lord, thank you that as a child of God, I know you are near. I know that as I draw near to you, sharing my good days and bad days, you are near enough to hand me a Slurpee. You are near when I am brokenhearted, and I quote Psalm 34:18. And when I call, Psalm 145:18. I can have hope in you and your nearness, Hebrews 7:9. And that you love me like a concerned mother likes her child. I know that this comfort and nearness is found only in you, my Maker. I will reach out, draw near, and take a good, long, refreshing slurp of you, my Father and Satisfier. Thank you for keeping your promises. I cling to them. Alex. So you see me pause here at the top. I've read you the full entry because I'm wanting to add the scripture references that I'm clinging to and the scripture references that are the promises that he fulfills, that he keeps. And so I do this often when I'm writing in my own prayer journal, where the scripture actually becomes my prayer or actually becomes what I claim. And so here, those scriptures again had to do with when I was brokenhearted, Psalm 34:18, when I call, Psalm 145:18, and I can have hope in you and your nearness, Hebrews 7:9. And they were scriptures that I had looked up and scriptures that the actual devotional had led me to when I looked up God being near to his people. So I added those in just parentheticals in my entry because I wanted to be able to go back and remember what I had learned about God's nearness. The other thing you saw me do in this entry was refer back to the story that Jen shares of the mother and daughter. So I say, like a concerned mother loves her child, or you're near to me as close enough to hand me a Slurpee. And then you see down right where I just finished writing in the video, I wrote the word slurp. Take a good, long, refreshing slurp of you, my Father and Satisfier. And I wrote that word slurp kind of longer and wider and in cursive to give it a visual. So this was me tying together why, even though Slurpees weren't the thing that my mom did for me on bad days, the visual of a mother and a daughter on those hard days of offspring was so special. So again, I went back, used the black pen to underline that section of scripture that I was really creating the image from, and I'm pretty much complete. I wanted to tape down this bow at the top. I chose the red hearts because it brought the red of the Slurpee up to the top of the page. I do love a little bit of a cluster or a little bit of something extra at the top to tie it all together. So I grabbed my highlighter washi again It also holds your tabs down firmly and makes it really stay in place, and it won't rip your page as likely. You're not as likely to have a ripped page from your tab if you reinforce it that way. I outlined the stickers, and that was it. I hope that you enjoyed seeing me journal from Promise Keepers by Creative Retreat. And that is, I will put all of the links to the Alex Creamy Crayons and Faber Castell Gelatos and other supplies I use, like the highlighter washi. Let me know if you have any questions, anything you'd like to talk about with those scripture references. This is Alex of Pacific Northwest Bible Journaling, joining you here on the Creative Retreat YouTube channel, walking through an entry in the Faith Art Box Promise Keepers. Thanks for tuning in.